Okay, now we've got things getting recorded. So, okay, so you're asking me about interest rates, right? It's
Yes, I
just,
did. I asked you about interest rates, Dan.
it is the most interesting time. And I'm going to babble on a little bit about interest rates here, okay? But I'm telling you, Kat, it is the most interesting time when it comes to interest rates. And let me explain why. So, we had this massive move up, right, in about 2 years, where rates went from like on the 10-year note from 0.5% all the way up to 5%, right? Massive move higher. And then we've peaked. It looks like we've made a nice leg down. And then, but what's happening right now is it looks like the market, like today, there are three big reports coming up here in the next 3 weeks, basically, right? So today's was the first, which is CPE. And then the second one we've got is the employment report coming up. And then the last one we've got is the CPI report that comes out in mid-February, right? So the reason I mention all that is I think we're at a turning point. I think that's what the markets are looking for right now, right? They're seeing that inflation is under control. Very nice. It's coming down very nicely. And
Yep.
then you're going to see, right now, I think it's pretty much baked in the cake that you're going to see lower interest rates through, the Fed has said it, and it looks pretty much like spot on going forward. We're going to see lower interest rates, right?
Right on.
Going to have
That's
lower, yeah,
music to my ears, Dan.
lower inflation. Um,
Lower interest rates.
lower interest rates, and I do think we're looking pretty good for the next, 2, 3, 4 months. I think you're going to see like straight ahead. We're going to start seeing lower interest rates. Hopefully Monday.
Good.
But
Good.
no, it's a very exciting time, and so
I think so. Yeah, I
yeah,
think going forward, I think at some point this year we'll see a mini refinance boom, which will be nice. So it'll be nice for my clients who got in at 8.5% in October to get refinance out of that. Hopefully they can do that this year. If they can't, then maybe next year. But I'm hoping rates come down enough to make it to justify refinancing and getting their payments down to a more manageable level. I mean, no one likes the sound of 8 or 8.5% interest rates. So most of my clients didn't wind up with that, but it's still stung.
Yeah, even right now, the conventionals have been in the high sixes, right? For conventional rates, and the FHAs and the government loans have been in the upper fives, right? 5.75, 5.99 or something like. They've been right up in that range.
Yeah.
I do think they're ready to. If they do take another leg down, and I think we're probably going to see that. You might see mortgage rates, conventional rates again down in the mid fives over the course of the next 2 months. I mean, that's like, if I'm wrong on some of this stuff, it's going to be dead ahead. If I'm wrong, we can just chalk it up to all my other wrong predictions.
Whoops, hold on. I think I got somebody at my door. Hold on.
Okay.
You can carry on. It could just be my dog. Hold on.
Carry on.
Okay, I have to confess. Mr. Fat Tuesday was banging on one of his treat puzzles. And so it sounded like a knock on the door.
Well,
my little buddy. You guys. Yes, my Havanese. He's almost 2, born on Fat Tuesday 2 years ago. Little buddy. Let me know if you want to come join the live stream, mister. You can do it.
And if I'm starting to steal your thunder, you just chime right in and shut me up. But I wanted to tie in that interest rate forecast, what we're talking about with interest rates. They are about to come right down because the inflation numbers are looking better and better. And then if you tie that into our stats today, okay, let's take a look here. Hang on here. We got to add it right there.
Yeah.
Remember this? We were just going over this one before we came on.
Yeah.
And
it's going to lead to higher housing costs, you guys. So, a nice forecast for interest rates. Not looking good for housing prices. So,
here's the thing. For my viewers on TikTok, they can't see the chart that I've got up here. What it is we got this chart of the local stats.
That's right.
Like
that I put
month-
together every week.
Pat Howard at Windermere Real Estate puts together every week, and they are fantastic stats. So you've got like King. Sorry if I'm babbling. If you want to take over, or you want me to?
So King County, yeah, 1.1 months supply of inventory in King County. So, inventory is still being eaten up. So there were more homes that went under contract last week than new listings coming on the market. So just to kind of give you an idea, actually for King County, that's not true. King County was the only county where actually their MSI might go up next week. So the rest of the counties, they're eating up inventory. King County was an anomaly. They actually had more listings, less listings coming on the market, more listings coming on the market than buyers making offers and getting those offers accepted. So King County is the one exception to that this week. But it still is a very strong market. 50% of the sellers set offer review dates. So we've got an awful lot of confident sellers in King County. So 59% of them went under contract within the first 7 days if they listed between January 6th and January 13th. And so that's a big number, 59% in the first 7 days. That's really a big number for sellers. So there's reason for some confidence there. I mean, we had 61% of sellers getting under contract if they listed between, December 24th and January 6th in King County. So that, again, that time span covers the holidays. And so that's a little less meaningful, but 61% is still an incredible number. So, yeah. So Dan, King County is the only anomaly there. We did have a little more inventory creep up, and it could be sellers that had held off because of the holidays are suddenly coming on the market. But I will say the other 5 counties that we cover, that is not the case. So that good news about lower interest rates. I mean, we're in a lower interest rate time period right now compared to October of last year. So interest rates are still down probably a point or so from the highs in October. And so going forward, if we see interest rates ease at all, more than where they're at now, so a lower interest rate going forward, we're going to see more of a little bit of a run on the market. I hate to say, run on the real estate market. So,
well, that's kind of it's kind of mind blowing a little bit because this is all happening in January right now. I mean,
it's happening right out the gate.
Yeah. Right out of the gate. I mean, you take a look at like Snohomish, and what's that at? Less than 1 month's supply of inventory in Snohomish County.
Yep. Snohomish County, 0.7 months supply of inventory. They're holding fairly steady, but they are actually chewing up inventory. So they actually were quite a few homes that went under contract and over and above the number of new homes that came on the market. So Snohomish County is actually still chewing up inventory. 40% of sellers in Snohomish County felt like they could set offer review dates. 63% of sellers in Snohomish County got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed between January 7th and January 13th. 66% of sellers got under contract if they listed within 14 days on the market, if they listed between December 24th and January 6th. So again, that's holiday time frame, but 66%, guys. The big number is 63% within the first 7 days. That number, it has been increasing every week for weeks.
Yeah, that was the Snohomish in 1 week went from 53 to 63 in 1 week.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's really remarkable. And actually, King did even more. Actually, I think they go from 45 to 59, something like that.
So January is shaping up very quickly because we're really just talking about the second week of January when we're talking about the 7-day data. It's just the second week. So the first week was really amazing, obviously way better than December numbers. And then now we're into the second week of January, and second week of January numbers are better than the first week. And I would anticipate that to continue unless we see a little bit of an interest rate hike. Right. So, but yeah, Pierce County, 1.05 months supply of inventory. So I made that distinction there. They are down from the previous week. So 1.05 months supply of inventory in Pierce County. 23% of sellers set offer review dates. 44% of sellers got under contract if the seller within 7 days on the market, if the seller listed between January 7th and January 13th. And 55% of sellers in Pierce County got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed between, get this, December 24th and January 6th, again, covering that whole holiday season. So again, the big number is the 7-day data because that goes back to the second week in January. And 44% for Pierce County is a good improvement. And again, their numbers have been going up weekly since December. December just kept increasing. It was a good month overall. Yeah. So, and then we move on to Mason County. So Mason County, 2-month supply of inventory. Let's see. 14% of sellers set offer review dates. 33% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed between January 7th and January 13th. And 50% of sellers got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed between December 24th and January 6th. So a strong pretty good market in Mason County as well. And that has continued to increase as well over the last couple of weeks. So Mason County the new listings are highly sought after in Mason County as well. So it's the new listings we're talking about here. That's a little bit different than listings that have languished on the market for a period of time. Those sellers may actually have to do a price reduction to get in front of buyers again.
Right.
So, and then Mason County's got a couple months worth of inventory there. So they do have a few extra listings that are languishing on the market that will have to be absorbed over the next couple of months. But I'm anticipating that's going to happen. Because again, they're actually the new listings, the listings that are coming on the market do not exceed the number of buyers getting under contract. So again, their inventory by nature is decreasing. So
I've got a question for you, Kat. All right, let's just pretend that you're sitting in, you're going to sell your house, right? You decide you talk to your realtor, but you're sitting there thinking about selling your house in, let's say, early December, something like that. If you were doing that in early December, would you put it on the market, or would you hold it off for 3 weeks and wait until like early January, something like that? I mean, it's sort of a conundrum, right?
Yeah, I think if you are thinking about putting your house on the market in early December, I would probably hold off until January, and I would probably not list the first week of January. If you can wait a few weeks, I would wait a few weeks. Let the buyers, come out, let the multiple offers start. Because let's face it, if you just get one extra offer, that could be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more. And they may have waived other things. Right. So you might, if you get 2 offers, I mean, somebody might be crazy and waive financing. Somebody else might do a non-refundable deposit. Different ways to ensure the seller is going to come out smelling like a rose. I mean, if somebody does a non-refundable deposit and then their loan doesn't close, or they don't get through financing or whatever they're trying to do, or they just change their mind, the money's gone. It's in the seller's pocket and the seller gets to start over. Yeah. So not that that's a privilege to get to start over, but now you've collected a non-refundable earnest money. We never want to see that happen, but it's insurance. It's an insurance policy for the seller. So in a seller's market, that's what sellers are looking for, is a bit of an insurance policy. And so non-refundable deposits are a way to do that. Again, I am not a big proponent of non-refundable deposits. I believe that you should sway the seller in other ways, not promise them your earnest money, especially if you need contingencies like financing or they haven't provided you with an inspection. So, anyway, yes. You know my pet peeves, guys. So Skagit County, 1.7 months supply of inventory. 8% of sellers did set offer review dates, so not very many. 33% of sellers got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed their home between January 7th and January 13th. They got off the market within the first 7 days, so that's incredible, right? So not bad numbers. And then 53% of sellers in Skagit County got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed between December 24th and January 6th. So again, Skagit County, their inventory is being chewed up, although again, they've got 1.7 months supply of inventory. So there's going to be some of the listings that have languished in the market for a while, probably should be considering price reductions, or they can just hold out and wait for pricing to start to creep up. It's happening now. So Kitsap County. So 1 month supply of inventory. 23% of sellers set offer review dates. 37% of sellers in Kitsap County got under contract within the first 7 days on the market if they listed between January 7th and January 13th. And 38% of sellers got under contract within the first 14 days on the market if they listed between December 24th and January 6th. So Kitsap County kind of running in the trail of the pack there, but I would anticipate next week's data to be much better for Kitsap County.
Yeah. Well, still,
And
even
still not a bad market, for Kitsap County.
well, even so, it's the month supply of inventory is only at 1 month.
It's only 1 month. Yeah.
1
And
month.
so it's not going to take a whole lot of buyers out there to start impacting whether, they start to get multiple offers. So with 37% getting under contract within the first 7 days, there's got to be multiple offers in there. As a matter of fact, there's probably quite a few.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, it has the makings for a very crazy market for the next 4 or 5 months, I think.
I know. I hate to use the word skyrocketing real estate prices this spring, but I'm on the verge of saying skyrocketing real estate prices this spring. I'm on the verge. I'm not quite there yet. So, but I will say increasing pricing. 100% prices are going up. If you missed the kind of lull in the fall, there wasn't much of one, but there was a terribly short buying opportunity probably between September and October, maybe into the 1st of November. That is now over. So buckle up, buttercup. You're in for a rocky ride this spring. I'm not kidding. I think it's going to be a rough road for buyers. I think there's some opportunities between now and maybe March or April to pick up properties with very little competition. But I do believe that most of the really sharp looking homes that are well prepared for market and are priced well or priced right, as I like to say, I do believe those will be snapped up with multiple offers. And I believe they're going to go significantly over asking price. What I'm seeing right now is 5 to 10% over for the nicer properties. Yeah. So when I've talked to different agents that have had listings over the past week. So that's what I would anticipate as a buyer going forward, is that you may be looking at, again, I don't want you to waive financing, but you might be ready to put together a 22 AD, which is called additional down. An additional down will cover the seller in case of a low appraisal. And low appraisals are somewhat likely to happen this time of year because we are in a market of increasing real estate prices, whether we want to believe it or not. So when you're offering over asking price, there is some chance that the appraisal will come in less than at value or your proposed sales price, your mutually agreed upon sales price. So if that happens, then you're looking at bringing that difference in cash to closing. So, if you have not provided a 22 AD to the seller covering that gap, then at that point, you'd be looking at renegotiating with the seller. So most sellers will not accept an offer without a 22 AD if the purchase price is going to go very far over asking price, because they don't want to get in that situation where now the buyer can ask them to reduce the price to the appraised value, or somewhere in between.
So let me ask you your opinion on what are your feelings on having a file fully underwritten before you make an offer? Do you have any opinions on that?
No, Dan. Why would I have an opinion on that? You guys, if you want to win, you have to get fully underwritten. Don't do this pre-approval crap. The pre-approval is not going to get you the house. A lot of times, if you're up against cash, you're out. If you're up against fully underwritten people, you're out. So the pre-approval means a lot less than being fully underwritten. You're a buyer. If you're a buyer and you are actually expecting to get into a home this spring, my advice to you is to get fully underwritten with your I was going to say attorney. Get fully underwritten with your lender. Like, let's say, for instance, Dan. I think Dan could do it if he had to. In a pinch, I think he could get somebody fully underwritten. Couldn't you, Dan?
Yes, we could. We've had this discussion. Yes, we had this.
Have we had this discussion? I think we have some mutual clients that have been pre-underwritten.
Yes, we do. So, but
it is the way to go. It's the way that you can actually get into a home. So there's fewer buyers competing this year, you guys, so far, right? So we're looking at multiple offers of 2 or 3 or 5 maybe on a really hot house, one that's maybe been slightly underpriced or is in flip condition. Really, everything's been redone. But even if you're up against 1 or 2 other buyers, gosh, if they're fully underwritten or they're cash or they have a bigger down payment, right? Or they have a better closing date, or they decided to waive the inspection. Don't do that unless the seller gives you an inspection or you've had a pre-inspection yourself. But other people are willing to do these kind of crazy things when they're competing for a home. And I don't want you guys in that situation. If you come in fully approved, fully underwritten approved, there's a good chance I can get your offer accepted with your financing contingency in place, because you'll already look like you've been through financing. And it just, your offer looks stronger. You're almost the same as cash. And that's how I explain it to a listing agent. So as long as you have a broker that you're working with that can explain what being fully written is to the listing agent, then you're in a good spot to compete. And you might not get the first house you put an offer in on, but you'll get one soon. And you might have to take that fully underwritten offer and make a bully offer out of it.
Well, let me chime in a little bit here, Kat, and say that if I'm having a good day, I could probably explain that to the listing agent. That's all I have to say about it.
I can explain it all day long. Call me. Being fully underwritten, bottom line is, as a buyer, is a really good idea. It is the only game in town as far as I'm concerned. If you guys, insist on using your own lender who will not do a full loan approval on you, get you fully underwritten, then it's not like I won't work with you. It's just that it's going to be, our road could be tougher. And you might wind up paying a little bit more for the home because we don't have that magic, ace in the hole of, you being fully through underwriting. Let's face it, you don't have to beat another offer by much money if you're fully underwritten and they're not. You really just kind of win. I don't want to use that word by default, but you do, because you are basically a guaranteed loan. You've been fully approved by the underwriter. They just need an address and appraisal, and homeowner's insurance, right, Dan?
That's right. And do you mind if I kind of just real quick walk through the differences between the two from a lending standpoint? Because there is a big difference. Well, because you can get an approval taken care of in 15 minutes, pre-approval, right? Yeah. You literally can. I mean, I can do it. Yeah. I don't, because I take a little more time, but still, you can get it done in about 15 minutes if you can. The thing is, they can't analyze all the potential. Like if your debt to income, let me put it this way: if you're on an FHA loan and they'll accept your file with a debt to income ratio of 49.97%, right? Could happen, right? I'm telling you straight up. But something happens where maybe the underwriter doesn't count $40 a month in that 49.97 DTI, and all of a sudden you flip to 50.02%. And all of a sudden, $40 a month, you go from an approval to getting kicked out of the box. You can't do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds crazy, and the problem is if you're taking a pre-approval and you're that close to the borderline, then you don't want to have any surprises, and it's nice to have everything fully underwritten in that situation.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
it does happen from time to time. Nobody that I know, but it has happened before. Yes.
Those debt to income ratios can get kind of tricky, Dan.
Well, they can. I mean, it's a funny thing how you get the income calculations, and sometimes maybe it's a bonus income or something like that. You're just not, you don't think you have any issues. You think you have an approval, and all of a sudden underwriting comes back. You got trouble, right?
Yeah.
You don't like to have trouble. You don't like to have egg on your face or anything like that.
Right.
It's bad. It's not a good thing. So it's kind of nice in this market where it's really competitive to take care of all those potential little glitches. They're not so little. Take care of them ahead of time. Make sure that everything is done properly right up front, and you know exactly what you've got going in. That's how I would.
Great. So, hey guys, how about
Yeah.
let's switch directions? Let's talk about sellers for a minute. Because sellers are kind of in the driver's seat, but what can a seller do to get their home ready for market properly if they don't have a bunch of cash in the bank? Not every seller has a home that is in pristine condition that is really ready to go on the market. And I mean, I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of things that go into preparing a house for a market to maximize your home value, and also to get you sold within a reasonable length of time, which is really in the new market norm. There's an expectation of getting sold within the first 7 or 14 days to get the most money for your home. And there's a lot of data to back that up. I know because I've pulled it. Topic of another video. But so the Windermere has a program where you can access your equity in your home for no money down, no payments along the way. They literally will provide you with a loan on the equity in your home, up to 75% of the equity in your home, up to $100,000. So,
sorry, I'm a little slow on the uptake there. I forgot.
I probably didn't say that very clearly, but you can borrow up to $100,000 against your equity in your home, up to 75% loan to value, right? So you have $1 million home and you owe 500,000 on it. You could borrow up to 200. Well, not up to 250. You could borrow up to $100,000, right? Because that's their top of what they'll loan. So, but there are no upfront fees. There is an origination fee that will be collected when the home sells of 2%. And then there's a sliding scale based on your credit score as to what the interest rate will be, the carrying interest rate will be while you have that loan. Most people won't have that loan for more than 2 to 4 months, right? A couple months, 1 or 2 months to get the house ready for market, and then maybe another month or 2 to get it sold and closed. So, and I'll give you an example of those costs. So if you right now, I just checked this morning with Bill to make sure that I was reporting accurately today. So if your score is 700 or higher, then it's 12%. So that's like 1% a month, right? You borrow $40,000, or you borrow $40,000. What is that? So whatever 1% of that is, right?
$400. Yeah.
$400. Yeah. So it's not very much money. You're not borrowing $250,000 here, guys. You're just borrowing enough to take care of some of the items to get your house ready for market. So a lot of the loans are typically between $20,000 and $50,000 just to get that accomplished. So if your credit score is 600 to 699, then you're at 15% interest rate. So a little over 1% per month. If you're below 600, then it's 18%. So it's still not credit card levels. I know some of you guys may have some low interest credit cards, but I don't know, the ones I see are like 26%. So, but there is the 2% origination fee. So again, on a $40,000 loan, you're looking at 2%. So that's going to be, what is that? Is that 8,000? No. 10% would be 4,000. So it'd be 800. 2% of 40,000. Am I doing that right?
Yeah. 2% of it at 40,000, $800. Yeah.
$800. Yeah. So you've got, we're talking a couple $1,000s to borrow the money to access the equity in your home. And the loan can be, completed within 10, 12 days. So my daughter has a listing, and the gal actually accessed, originally like 30,000. And then they had the pre-inspection, and they discovered that a lot of things need to be accomplished in the crawl space. And so she's borrowing another 20 because she did not borrow the entire 100,000. So she actually just asked for another 20 today, and she will have that within 10 to 12 days. So she can go ahead, proceed with the work that's being done, and have the money to pay them within a week or two. So it's a handy dandy program for the right situation. It's not going to be right for everybody, but if you don't have the cash just laying around, or you have your money invested in somewhere else that it would cost you to pull it out of, then I think the Windermere Ready program could be the right fit to get the job done, to replace carpet if you need to replace carpet, to get the exterior painted, to handle any attic or crawl space issues, general plumbing, general overall, maintenance issues, deferred maintenance, which everybody winds up with usually at some point, So even pressure washing sidewalks and driveways, it all costs money. So unless you want to get out there yourself.
But
thank you.
As we've gone through before, though, I mean, the return on investment on this stuff is phenomenal. I mean, it more than pays for itself. When you take a look at how much faster the house will sell, how much more it's going to sell for than if you didn't, stage it properly and have it all fixed up and all that, makes a big difference.
You do have to, it does depend on the value of the home, right? Depends on the value of the home, the location of the home, how what the neighborhood is like the house is in, and the particular real estate climate at that time. There are times when you're going to do more to a home to get it more prepared for market, and there are times you can get away with doing less. 2022, when the market went from going up to going down because of interest rates doubling within a couple of months, from let's say March to June, I had a listing. My clients thought they could get away with not replacing carpets, and that did not fly in that June market. That expectation from those buyers went way up, and we also had to replace the glass panes that had the seals that had failed, and because it was a significant number, and this was a home on a golf course, so it made a difference. And so in the end, we got a good price for the house, but we did provide the buyer with a couple of freebies, which we should have done to start with. Right. So the market just shifted so quickly. It was hard to pivot that fast. So I kept setting my client data every week as the data was going down. It was nosediving. We went from like 80 or 90% of homes getting under contract within the first 7 days, Dan, to by the time he went on the market, it was like 28% getting under contract within the first 7 days. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, and you're watching this every week.
I'm not freaking out at all for my seller.
Oh, good. Oh, you know what? I've got one more graphic for you. Do you mind?
Oh, I love your graphics, Dan. Please share away.
Well, my graphics are your graphics, Kat. Here we go.
Oh, thank you.
We got the
look
stats.
At that.
Look at that. Yeah.
That's my stats by Kat, guys.
So we get it's it really is these stats coming in from King County and Snohomish County. Maybe it's because that's where we live and it's close by, and so I watch that a little more closely. But boy, oh boy, I mean the stories I'm hearing from open houses right now, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, 2 weeks ago we were having 19-degree weather at an open house, and they had like this is down in Kent, but they had like 100 people going through that open 100, in 19-degree weather. It's crazy.
Well, and take a look at the days on market there, Dan. So we've got median days on market. Median days on market in King County is 16. So half the homes are selling in 16 days or less. And I will tell you that number is going down rapidly.
Yeah.
So honestly, so half the homes over the last 30 days probably is where that data is from. Have gone into contract within the first 16 days on the market, which is a really nice number, and that's going to get prettier and prettier as we go forward. So,
well, that's great. I mean, it really is. I don't know. It's interesting. It's a very interesting time in the real estate market. I mean,
It
really
is, and it's really fun to watch it week over week because it really does shift in traditional real estate market cycles overall.
right.
You know, we did see a bit of softening in the fall this year, not very much. I would have expected to see a little bit more, but we had interest rates that peaked in October and then headed down quickly. And every week after those interest rates peaked, our real estate market picked up a bit more, almost every single week. So we had a pretty strong late fall into, the beginning of winter. Very strong for Christmas season. And we parlayed that into just a fantastic start to the first of the year for sellers.
If this
I
keeps
like
up,
to stress that this is not a fantastic market for buyers. It's okay. Compared to where it's going to be in a month, I'd say jump in now. I keep saying that, you guys. Get in there.
well, I mean,
Hey, Amanda. Oh my gosh. Hi, Amanda. Hey, you know who Amanda is, Dan? Amanda.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Amanda. We were just talking the other day.
Yeah.
Hi, Amanda.
She just liked our live.
Oh, nice.
I know. Love you. So I keep telling buyers, hey, listen, this is your opportunity. And, in a lot of ways they've missed their opportunity, but it is going to be better now than it will be next month. Better next month than it will be a couple months from now, more than likely, unless we see something catastrophic financially for the country, for the world, or economically, right? Or we see interest rates spike for some weird reason, or, I don't think inflation is going to turn around and start going back up again, but you never know. So unless we see something like that happen, we're probably in for a pretty rambunctious spring for the housing market. I mean, it's going up.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
it is something.
Did I say that?
So early in the, it's starting so early in the year.
It is. Yeah. Appreciation already.
Yeah,
saying.
that's right.
We're not even through January and housing prices have gone up already. So it looks like we're in for a traditional spring increase, which in Snohomish County averages 9.7%, you guys. And in King County, the average increase between January and June is 12.7%. And I have the data to back that up for the past 12 years. So, and then we kind of level out in summer, and we often, tick back a tiny bit in fall. This last fall did not tick back very much, but year over year, we didn't have that great of increases, but we still had nice appreciation in King and Snohomish counties.
I mean, really, the best time
according to the Seattle Times, but if you look at my data is accurate. Look at me getting defensive.
Well, just for our TikTok and Facebook and YouTube audience, Kat and I had a discussion about that too. We were talking about that. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're kind of assuming that Seattle Times, whoever their reporter was for the particular article that said that King County had gone down in value, we believe they're probably using a rolling average, 12-month rolling average. It just looks at data a little differently. I look at data like December to December, what the average price per square foot is. I also take a look at average sales price as well as median sales price. I look at median price per square foot. And whatever looks most representative, looking at all of them as a total, as a total picture, I use that number or those numbers. And so 12-month rolling averages, I think for a period of 20 to 30 years, like we were talking about, or a longer time frame, is probably a fairly accurate way to represent the real estate market. But if we're talking shorter time periods, like just year over year, I don't think 12-month rolling averages are very accurate. I think there's a lot of other things baked in the cake there that, because we had an increase from last year to this year. If you're pricing properties and you're a realtor, you know that we're not at last year's January prices, right? That's just wrong. So what does that tell me? We're up. And we're up 5 to 7%, right, to be fair. So, so anyway, You can ask, I mean, you don't have to ask any realtor. You can just ask me. I'll tell you. Or you can have a realtor go pull that data if they know how to do that. but you know, to be fair, you know, when you hear reports out of like that, you kind of, it's so hard with statistics because you can make them kind of mean whatever you want. You got to look really hard to see the market going down from last year to this year, and they looked really hard.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about that. Love the Seattle Times, but not that.
Well,
Misleading. Because that would say to my clients that you're going to get a better deal now than you would have a year ago. Not true.
that's not true.
It's
That's
not
right.
true. It's not true. I can guarantee, I can show you houses that sold last year and you'd be like, I'm paying more now.
Well, you can look at houses that maybe sold in December and they're probably up about 10 or 12% at this point, I'll bet
You can look at houses that sold last January, Dan, if you want a
Okay.
year-over-year comparison. You can
Well,
go
there
to January. You can go to the same week in January. And I haven't done it, but I'm quite certain I'm right.
Yep. Yep.
And you know I like to be right, Dan.
Well, you know,
And I give them credit. I'm sure whatever data they pulled, you know, and they're probably including condos and manufacturers, and maybe they're even including vacant land. I don't know what they used in their data. I used just strictly resales. I don't include new construction. I don't include leased land. So I do a lot of refining of my data so that I can counsel my sellers and my buyers on resales. So I leave out waterfront properties, and I leave out attached homes. And the reason I do that is, you know, attached homes are not the same thing as detached single family.
Right.
So attached homes feel sometimes to a lot of people more like condos. So I do not include attached homes either. So it's all apples to apples. And so I do refine my data, but I want it to be reflective of a specific type of real estate. So it does not include new construction and does not include condos or townhomes. They're all detached. And I think it's quite representative. So that's how I pull my data. And I use that data for comparisons over the years. And so I always pull my data the same way with the same criteria. So there's, you know, it's hopefully always apples to apples. You know, if the data set is too narrow for a particular time frame, then it's not as accurate, right? But as long as you've got quite a few data points in there, I like at least 100. You know, it's better if there's even more than that. But, you know, sometimes when we're narrowing things down, like we're looking at like, you know, fourplexes that sold over 10 years and we're looking at the individual years, there are years where there's only been, you know, several, 4 to 10 or whatever. And those numbers can be skewed just because maybe the fourplexes were newer or they had been remodeled, and maybe average year, maybe there's only 10% had been remodeled in that particular year. Half of, you know, 10 had been remodeled or something. So there's always those things that can skew the data. But I like the way that I pull data for resales, and I know I'm tooting my own horn. Sorry about that.
Well, no.
I'm sorry, I took offense to that Seattle Times article.
If anyone was going to be able to shoot right back at the Seattle Times and write a letter to the editor about their lousy data, it would have been you.
I haven't done it. There's been a number of times where I was kind of fired up and I wanted to do it because I felt like they have a big responsibility to the public and it feels misleading. Right. And I really believe that it should take talking to agents on the ground to find out exactly where the real estate market is. You can have your big, you know, data sets that you utilize from FHFA, or, you know, that, you know, take into more of a 12-month rolling average type situation over a number of years and try to take that year and come up with a conclusion, but I don't think it's accurate. Sorry.
No,
I feel a call from the Seattle Times coming. She's a hater. No, I'm not. I promise. That's misleading. I'm sorry, I'm going off here, guys. On that because it's my wheelhouse. I don't have opinion on a lot of things because they're not my wheelhouse, but when it's my wheelhouse, I have an opinion. Anyway, should we move on really quickly before we run out of time, Dan? Because I feel like we're on a little bit of a stop clock here. Are we over an hour yet?
Yes, we're at 45 minutes right now.
Oh, perfect. We're good. We're at the right. You want to talk about an investment property? I'm getting hot.
Yes.
Okay.
I noticed that as soon as you wanted to talk about the investment property, you got hot and had to take off your jacket.
I know you noticed that, and I'm like, I swear, I think I'm turning red too. I'm not sure. It looks like I'm turning red in the video here. Anyway, hey, yeah. So Dan and I like to talk about multifamily investment properties for a variety of reasons. It's one way that you can grow wealth in this country without it costing you a whole lot. You have to come up with the 25% down usually, unless you're a first-time home buyer, and you can utilize an FHA program where you can put down 3 to 5% and live in one of the units, but that requires you to live on the premises with your other renters, right? And not everybody wants to do that, but it is an inexpensive way for a buyer to buy a property that is a lot more than they would ever otherwise qualify for with the new rules as of November of 2023. So there is the low down payment for owner occupied. But we're mostly talking about the traditional investor, which would be your average homeowner that has lived in their home for a few years, either has access to some equity or has, amassed a bit of cash that they could utilize for a down payment on multifamily. It does not have to be for a multifamily in the town you live in, right? You don't have to live there. You're going to hire a property manager to handle your multifamily. So you're not going to touch it, typically speaking. I don't touch mine usually. I go check on them after someone moves out and make sure everything looks okay. And, if I need to do something, I might tell my property manager can you guys have this, handle that situation? Like, for instance, and I'll go down a rabbit hole for 1 second. So on one of my rentals, I've got one in Woodinville, and it's single family Rambler, and I had trouble with moisture in the attic, and the roof was new 20 years ago, and it was just completely disintegrated within 15 years. And so when I had that replaced, we actually resheeted the whole thing because it all needed resheeting. And so it's been a couple of years since it's been resheeted and the roof has been put on. So when these renters move out, I will have someone go in the attic, and I want to make sure that it's staying nice and dry. So something that you can do, or you can hire someone to do for you. I probably won't go in the attic. I'll hire somebody to do that for me because I don't like it up there. I've actually been up there. It's unpleasant. So anyway, but you're not going to be doing those sorts of things, right? You're going to have a property manager to handle those things for you. So really what you're doing is you're coming up with 25% down and covering any closing costs. And then you're looking for a property that's going to hopefully break even, right, Dan? I mean, that's the goal here, is that to have something in your portfolio where there's a little bit of extra money to handle any kind of repairs that might come up. You're going to have to replace hot water tanks about every 10 years. You do not want to wait for them to fail. That's water damage if they fail. So you're going to replace hot water tanks about every 10 years, and keep up with on any kind of filters on the furnaces and other types of systems. To make sure things stay maintained in a nice manner. So make sure the plumbing is always tight, and there's no leaks and things like that. So again, your property manager should be walking through your rental about every 6 months as part of their standard procedures to make sure that the tenant one is taking really good care of it and keeping things tidy. If they notice that there's mold growth, then they might advise the tenant to start running their fans more and things like that. So that's what the property manager is going to do for you. So you really want to get into a property that does pencil. So by penciling means you want it to cash flow at least some. So you're going to calculate in at least $2,400 a year for maintenance. And I would say that's a minimum. That's $200 a month. And if you got a duplex or a fourplex, it's not much. So you'd only have $10,000 roughly over 4 years accumulated. It's not a whole lot. You could replace a few hot water tanks and maybe a washer or dryer, and a couple other things. But so you're going to want to have a minimum amount for repair and maintenance. Like I said, I use 2,400 as a good solid number. And then you're also going to want to calculate vacancies. So I like to use If it's 4 units, I like to use, let's say that 2 of the units are vacant for 2 weeks. So I essentially use 25% of the rent, and then I tack on another 25% of the rent for the lease fees, because a lot of property management companies charge you a half a month's rent to release. So let's say you have 2 out of 4 units come empty every year. So let's use an example, $2,000 a month. So you got $8,000 a month coming in altogether. You have 2 of those units come empty. They sit empty for 2 weeks each. So that's $1,000 plus $1,000. That's $2,000 in rent that you're missing, and then another half of the lease. So that'd be $1,000 plus $1,000 for the 2 units that are rented for $2,000 each. So that would cost you what, $4,000, right? Is what you'd be looking at.
Right.
So I think that's a fair way to do it. The rental market in Western Washington overall is fairly tight. Some places even have, some waiting lists for rentals. I know that for me, I've always been able to get mine rented right away.
Right.
I usually don't even really have a week between tenants usually. And a lot of places do report that that's going on. So I know that a lot of places in Bremerton is a good place to almost break even and have a little cash flow. The property we're going to talk about today is in Bremerton. The other place that I really like is for cash flowing. And again, not everybody likes Grays Harbor County as far as Aberdeen, Hoquiam area, but it is a place where you can pick up an investment property. It may be older, 100, 120 years, posted pier, but people, when they're renting, don't seem to mind the uneven floors that are kind of inherent with a property that's that old, as long as there's no real ongoing, pest damage, right? From the Anobiid beetles. I know I'm saying that wrong, guys. I can't say it the other way. What is it? Anobid? I don't know. Anyway, Anobiid beetles or carpenter ants or something like that. So you want to make sure that the foundations are solid. But if they pencil, you can hold them for maybe 10, 15 years, make sure you maintain them. Then hopefully by the time you retire or you decide you want to reinvest that money, you've got some equity built in, and maybe the rents have gone up quite a bit. So you're now really super positive cash flow. And that's really what you're looking for, right? It's not all about just rents going up. There's also the potential for equity. And usually you get both. So you do have to plan on hanging on to them for probably at least 5 years. But I would say 5 years from now, rents will probably be higher, right? So if you're barely cash flowing right now, it's okay. You just hang on, and rents will eventually go up, and hopefully interest rates come down. Maybe you'll be able to refinance out of the current loan, because none of us are going to like the loan rate right now for investment property. You're looking at 8.5%, maybe 9 even now. So we're not going to like that. But if you can get it to pencil, this is the thing. If you can get it to pencil at that, then if you refinance it, now it's going to really pencil. Or you can take that refinance and you can pull some cash out and buy another one.
Yep.
You just keep that thing cash flowing. Don't refinance it to the point where it won't cash flow. So you just want to make sure that you're positive, and that so that you're not having to feed the investment properties. Yeah. It's sometimes it happens where you've got something unexpected go wrong, and might take some out-of-pocket cash. But for the most part, you want to try to get them to pencil and at least break even when you purchase them.
Right.
I think over the long term, we all can expect appreciation. I think that's a fairly realistic approach, and I think we can all appreciate higher rents over the long term. So part of that is a hedge against inflation too, right, guys? Yep. So. But I think it's interesting. I love multifamily. There's been a lot of it that's been overpriced recently. It doesn't very pencil at the current interest rates. So there's a lot of properties out there sitting. The ones that I've liked are disappearing. Acorn's gone. 2 offers came in Bremerton. I like that one. I can say that now out loud. I had an investor. I thought he should have bought it. Single-story duplex. I think the rents were $3,600 a month. It was priced at $449. It just about broke even at full price. It looked like the insides have been remodeled somewhat. It was an amazing location in Bremerton, near Lions Park, I think. Right there, you could see the water from the property. It was on nice acreage, had a nice big backyard. It was a flat lot for the most part. The backyard had a bit of a hill, but it was a great area. I like that area in Bremerton a lot. I plan on spending quite a bit of time over there in the near future. We'll talk about that later.
Why pray tell are you going to be over in Bremerton? What's going to take you over to Bremerton of all places?
Well, we'll see. We'll just have to see, Dan. But it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting.
Well, that's very good. I'm glad you're excited. That's
yes.
Good to hear.
So, yes. And it's a nice area. It's a beautiful area.
Sure is.
It's a
really
beautiful area. That Tracyton, what is that? Tracyton Scenic Drive. That is a beautiful street. It really is. And this duplex Acorn was just off of that street. And that park, Lions Park there, I believe it's got a pier. You can walk out on the pier. I'm not sure if you can fish from there or not, but you definitely have access to the beach. And it's just a gorgeous park. So beautiful area. It faces west. So it's just a neat area in Bremerton. You know, it's not downtown. You're across the bridge from downtown, but it's just a neat area. It's very rural feeling. Everybody's on like a half acre, an acre. You know, there's little new developments tucked in here and there. There's all the kinds of businesses that you'd want to shop at, you know, right there in you know, East Bremerton.
Yeah.
So kind of a cool area.
And even if you're working in Seattle, it's kind of a nice escape to get on the ferry, come in every day.
Listen, there's a fast foot ferry from Bremerton to Seattle. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of people that live in Bremerton that work in Seattle. It's very convenient. You know, and you can either take the car ferry or you can take the fast foot ferry. Take your pick. So, you know, there's a lot to be said for Bremerton. It gets kind of a bad rap, but I think it's a cool area.
It is.
I really do. My daughter lives in Kingston, and I think there's a lot of beautiful areas in Bremerton.
It is. It's, you know,
and I think it's a great area for investments. That's my personal. I love Bremerton for that. I think Grays Harbor is also a good area. I don't think Grays Harbor is going to be depressed forever, but I believe that it's kind of under a chokehold by one or several businessmen that are refusing to do anything with the existing downtown properties. And I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But the chance for redevelopment gets less when you've got some multiple properties owned by one owner and they're not doing anything with them. It handicaps the region or the city. Right. So that's the rumor. I don't know how true it is, but that's kind of what I heard.
We'll save that discussion for another day.
Throwing somebody under the bus. Sorry.
You know, with all of our viewers, I don't want to
do it, Kat. Amanda. I love her. Say it how you call it. Say it how you see it, Kat.
Well, let's have that. We'll have that discussion anytime you want.
Amanda, I know. I love the ferry. Amanda says she loves the ferry. I know. I love the ferry. It's fun taking the ferry, you know, unless they run out of boats, you know, or the one goes aground or something, you know, that's not as much fun. But taking the ferry normally is a very fun experience. It's relaxing. My daughter puts her makeup on when she comes over here. She doesn't put her makeup on until she gets on the ferry. We also do a lot of work on the ferry. When I go over there, I'm just working on the ferry. It's great. Yeah. Answering emails, texts. It's awesome. Anyway, so let's talk about this property in Bremerton.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Viking Avenue. I've had my eye on this one for a while. It has been under contract a couple of times, and I'm not sure exactly what the reason is. It's gone out of contract, but they were under contract at least twice since it was listed. They've dropped price a couple of times. I believe they started at 1150. It was either 1110 or 1151.
I think you're right. I think it
1150. Oh my God, 1.15 million. And they got under contract at 1.15 billion, and then they dropped it, and now I believe they're at $1,085,000.
Yeah.
So they've come down some. To me, it doesn't really pencil until you get down to at least $1 million. So I ran the numbers at $1 million, guys. Here it is. So we've got 4 units rented. So 2 of the units are rented for $1,875 a month. And then we got one at $1,950 a month. And then we've got another one at $2,150 a month. So we've got 4 units total. The total gross monthly income is, so the monthly income is $7,850. If you multiply that out for a year, that's $94,200 for the year. So that's your gross income. Now you have a purchase price of $1 million. We're going to do 25% down. So that's $250,000 down, right?
Right.
30 years at 8%. So 8% is what the average investor should be able to get about now. Some investors are going to be a little higher. Some investors might be a little lower, depending on a number of factors and what type of loan you're getting, right? Your monthly payment on that is going to be $5,503. So not terrible. I mean, you're looking at $7,850 a month bringing in for rents, and your payment is $5,500. So right out the gate, you're like, sounds pretty good. But when you start to look at the other costs, the other expenses for the property, then you kind of take a step back and say, yeah, I can see why she's saying maybe we should, pick it up for $1 million instead of $1,085,000.
85. Yeah.
Right. So your total expenses on this property, and this is annually, are $22,285. And I'm going to break that down line by line so you guys get an idea of what we're looking at in expenses for multifamily. Most expenses will fall under these categories. So property taxes, $5,431. Property insurance, $4,142. Property management is always going to be right about 10% plus any release fees. So I just use 10% as a round number, and then just assume that we're going to calculate in the release fees under vacancy. So for property management, I have $9,420. That's 10% of $94,200. Repairs and maintenance, again, I always use the $200 a month, $2,400. Listen, if you don't spend $2,400, that goes in the kitty, right? Get to use maybe and next year. So next year, if you don't spend any, that's $4,800 now you got in the kitty. So maybe the next year you got to replace a hot water tank, $1,000 to $2,000. You still got money left over, and there may be miscellaneous fees, costs along the way for repairs. Water, sewer, garbage on this one's $432. So there's some kind of miscellaneous, utility fees there. And then other $460. So whatever that is. The vacancy I calculated at $3,900 for the year. So your NOI, your net operating income, taking your total gross income and you subtract out your expenses and your vacancy, and you get $68,015. So that sounds really good. Sounds really good. Then you have to look at your annual debt service. So that's all your payments, that $5,503 times 12, and that debt service is $66,039. That's dangerously close to your NOI. So your pre-tax cash flow, so get this, assuming all those things are true. So assuming, you've got a vacancy that's costing you $3,900 in a year, you've got repairs and maintenance costing you $2,400. Your pre-tax cash flow is $1,976 for a year. Now, I don't love that, but it's positive, guys. And if you're not wrong about the vacancy rates and being able to re-rent those units fairly soon. So they've been updated, right? If you're buying something that's not been updated, we got a whole different set of calculations. But if the units have been updated and you're fairly certain that they're not over market, then these numbers should be fairly stable, should be fairly true. After tax cash flow. So I've got all the ways I know how to analyze all this data. Your after-tax cash flow, assuming a modest 12% federal tax bracket, that brings you out to after-tax cash flow of $4,295 your first year. Now, that changes down the road because depreciation is less over time, right? We're depreciating this property over 27.5 years. That first year has the largest amount of depreciation, and it gets less each year after that, the part that you can write off on your taxes. So now your after-tax cash flow, if you're in a 20% federal income tax bracket, I'm just using the lower brackets just for examples, you guys. So you can, and let me tell you, after-tax cash flow at a 20% tax bracket, it's more. It's $5,840. So all of a sudden, that starts looking a little better. That's looking a little closer to $500 a month positive cash flow, plus your repairs and maintenance, plus your vacancy rate, right? So if you don't have a vacancy, you don't have any repairs and maintenance, you add that to the kitty at the end of the year. So, and that's how you look at this stuff. So, you know, if all these things were true about this property and the inspection report that they've got available I can provide it to you guys if you want an inspection on this property. I've kind of glanced at it. I'm not really a big fan. I feel like maybe the seller should fix a few more things. But if the property has been, it was a flip, right? So they bought it for 500 and I think they bought it for 580,000, 579,000. And I think that was 2 years ago, March 2022. So they took it and they didn't do a whole lot to it. I think they did in this one. This one was pretty run down. This one was very run down. So they took the 4 little individual buildings, 2-bedroom, 1 bath with laundry, and they rehabbed them. So now they're cute little, and they all have laundry. That's the really cool thing about this property, guys. Plus they're all individual little cabins, 2-bedroom, 1 bath cabins with a laundry. And so it's kind of a neat little property. I like that they offer more than average privacy. You don't have any shared walls. You've got your own laundry. You have 2 bedrooms. So, and the ground is flat. The topography right there is really flat. So there's plenty of room to park. There's also on this one an extra lot. So now what I haven't done is I haven't done my due diligence. If I were representing a buyer on this one, I would need to know what that new lot, that extra lot looks like. Is it buildable? Would it perk for septic? You know, is that something that does have value in this particular? If it does, then maybe over $1 million is worthwhile, right? So that's one thing we're not calculating into the mix is could you sell off that extra lot? So anyway, I think this one's really interesting, depending on the value of that extra lot and what it would take to split that off and actually sell it. And if you sold it, would it impact the value of your property?
Well, what if you split it off and then put an ADU up as a condo and then sold it off? You could probably make some money off of that, I'll bet you.
You could probably put a duplex.
Probably put a duplex.
There's a good
up
chance
there,
you could put a duplex on. You know, again, it's going to depend on if it perks, right?
Right.
So, and as long as there's electric service, which, you know, in that area there should be adequate electric. So,
And I guess
and
and
I do believe these ones are on septic, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'll tell you what, it is a very interesting property.
It is. Well, I love that. I love the little houses. You know, I will tell you guys, I mean, obviously it's more to maintain those, right? Because you have exterior sides on all 4 of them. You've got individual roofs on all 4 of them. But when you get a water leak in one of them, it's 1 unit. It's not like it's an upstairs unit affecting the downstairs unit. I don't like that. That makes me nervous. So I don't like somebody else's unit impacted by, you know, one idiot letting the toilet overflow upstairs. Got issues with that. They don't know to shut the water off. Guys, turn the water off behind the toilet if the water doesn't go down.
Wait a minute now. I got a little bit of
This is turned into a lecture on how not to overflow water in your house, not how not to have a toilet overflow.
So let me see if I got this straight. All of a sudden, we've got to lower the water in the toilet and we've got to put the seat down. It's getting tough. It's getting rough out there.
Poor guys. I know. You guys have to know how to turn the water off if the toilet is going to overflow because you don't want it overflowing into the unit down below or into the crawl space for that matter. Anyway, my own personal pet peeve. It's why if I were going to buy a multifamily right now, I would shoot for a 1-story. I really like the 4 little cabins. I think that's a incredible, unique idea.
Ooh, property. Let's share the screen real quick so people can see it. How's that?
Sure. Yeah. Do you have a picture of it there?
I do. Well, I pulled it. Let's see if we can get this figured out.
I do have a picture of it somewhere.
So here it is. Now I've got it. Okay, so the folks watching on YouTube and whatchamacallit, Facebook.
Sharp looking they look like little cabins, a dark gray exterior. They got white trim and they got nice little, I don't know if they're green or blue doors. The door looks blue on his picture. It looks green on mine. So, but regardless, they got cute little bright doors. You know, in my mind, they also could use bigger windows and more because I'm a
Well,
light freak, but not everybody needs that. But the
but
kitchens look brand new, right, Dan?
the kitchens do look brand new, and take
They're
a look in
modern
the
appliances. They got stainless steel appliances. They got the modern flooring. I mean, there's a lot to be said for these cute little bungalows.
yeah.
You know, again, they're going to be easy to rent because I'm not the listing agent, guys. I don't even know the listing agent. She doesn't even know I'm talking about this.
Well, it doesn't really matter all that much because if you look in the lower right-hand corner of this, screen
Oh,
share.
it's pending again. See, this is what happens, you guys. I
Yeah.
pick a property and then it goes pending. Dang it.
You've got the magic touch.
Well, you know, last time I talked about this one, it went pending too.
Yeah, that's
Before
true.
I went live. That's happened to me. I think every time I've talked about this one, it's gone pending when I was getting, because I just decided to use this one 2 days ago. So it must have just went pending.
I
But
think it
anyway,
must-
yeah, I mean, it's a cute little property, you guys, but it's just one example, right? I think I've talked about Acorn in the past. That's an attached duplex, again with the single story, so that if you do have a water incident, you're not impacting more than one unit. Because if you do have a water incident, your tenant may or may not have to move out. You have one bathroom in most multifamily units. So you just, you know, for me, I just don't want a situation where I have to have two tenants move out, you know,
Yeah.
like in a fourplex or something like that. I prefer my investment properties to be single story.
You know what is
More
interesting
roof
about you know what's interesting also about that property or any of the fourplexes or
I
what?
can't believe it's pending, Dan.
Luck of the Irish, I guess. I don't know. But I would say something. It's interesting because let's say you're on a VA
Amanda,
loan.
we have to listen to Amanda really quick. We had to have all the valves replaced on our toilets to make sure they actually would turn off. I think I should be advising my clients to check the valves on their toilets to make sure they do turn off. That's good advice, actually. Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that is actually good advice because there are times when your valves don't work. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dan. I just saw a comment come on here and I wanted to make sure.
I was just thinking that it's interesting because if you could buy a property like that. Let's say you're being creative, want to find a place to live in this environment, and you could buy something like that on an FHA loan for 3.5% down. You could buy something like that on a VA loan with nothing down. It's an interesting approach
Yeah.
to some of these housing crises.
And we talked about that in a previous live stream about,
Yeah, that's right.
and one of the people they had walk away, one of the buyers they had walk away was a VA buyer.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I think if it's a first time home buyer, it's really tough to imagine yourself living in one of the units and, you know, having this big stroke, right? So the payment would be, you know, if you bought it for $1 million, it'd be 5,500, right? For a regular investor. But if you're buying it with 3% down or 0 down for like VA, your payment's much higher. So thousands of dollars a month higher. And even though your portion, I think we figured out would be about 3,500 if they bought it at, I think it was 1.1 or 1.15, which they would be buying it for less now. But I think we figured their stroke would be about $3,500 a month as long as their tenants stayed in place. And I think it's real easy to get nervous when you've got 3 other units that 1 or 2 comes empty. And what are you doing? You're really, you know, you can afford 3,500. Not the other portion. So I think that's where, you know, for first time home buyers, that gets a little nerve wracking. And I think if you're going to be a first time home buyer in that situation and you want to come in with that little down, then that extra money, if you have any, you should have extra money tucked away. You need probably 6 months house payments and full house payments to be tucked away in an account to take care of any potential maintenance issues, or if you're for some reason you have a catastrophic water issue in one of the units, it needs to be vacant for 6 months. You need to be able to cover that portion.
Yeah.
So I think as a first time home buyer, that's what I would be looking at. I don't think I'd be comfortable getting somebody into something like that unless they had quite a stash of cash.
Yeah.
So they might be something where you've got $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 that you could put down into something, but maybe better if you're buying a multifamily and you're going to live in one of the units to just put that money in the bank account.
Yeah.
For rainy day.
That's
For the first couple of years, right?
Yeah.
or have it somewhere very liquid, right? You could do short-term CDs or part of it in a longer-term CD, 1 year or something, but I keep that money fairly accessible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that would be my caveat if I were representing a buyer that wanted to live in one unit in multifamily and trying to buy it. You could put very little down, but I would suggest you have money in the
bank.
kitty.
Yep, that's right.
Money in the piggy bank, money under the mattress. Don't recommend putting money under the mattress, guys.
Well,
I was confronted with that situation via I'm just gonna say I heard about that situation. I'm not gonna say who told me, but guys, don't keep your money in the house. Bank. If it's in the house, you guys, one, it can be stolen, it can burn in a fire, put it in a safety deposit box. Don't keep it under your mattress. And if it's not in the bank, you guys, and I'm just going to throw it out there, if it's not in the bank, you have to show a paper trail.
Yeah.
When you buy something, otherwise you can't feed more. I think it's $5,000 a month. I know you can't say anything, Dan, but I think the maximum you can put in is up to $5,000 a month before you throw off all kinds of red flags as to where the heck the money's coming from. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I understand.
They've changed.
So you can't get the money back into the U.S. banking system very quickly if you've got a significant amount of cash. And I hope I'm not getting in trouble for this. Do you think I will?
No. If you can deposit more than.
I mean, it's not illegal to have cash in your house, but it
right.
is hard to get it back into the banking system if you've got it out of the banking system at a certain point. So, when you buy a house or you buy investment property, you have to show where that money is coming from. And it takes a while to season it, to get it back
right.
into the banking system where you can actually show, hey, this is my money,
Well, if you walk in with a satchel of money and let's say $150,000 in cash or something like that, the bank might ask you some questions.
Yes,
they're not saying you're doing
that's
anything
the
else.
problem is the questions.
You might have some questions, yes. And then with that, you know what else could happen? I'm not telling anything out of school here. It's true, but you know what else could happen?
What?
One of the diligent bank tellers could quietly on the side there start writing something down and start one of those suspicious activity reports, a SARS report.
Is that what they're called? SARS reports?
SARS reports, yes. You don't want a SARS report because first off, you don't even know who's filed it, right? You don't get to confront your accuser. And then all they're doing is they're like, it's suspicious.
Ken, how do you know about things like this?
We have to study it. That's part of our mortgage test.
I don't believe you.
No, it's true. It's true. You
guys have to study like fraudulent shit going on?
Yes. We do. And they every year they give us the exact same test, and every year the exact same questions are on it.
I said that. Yeah.
So
anyway, don't hide your money in your mattress, guys.
One of these years, I'm going to rue the day when they change the questions on the mortgage test. Then I'm in big trouble.
You're in big trouble, Dan.
Yes.
Safety deposit boxes, guys. At least it can't be stolen, right? Hopefully. But you still got to get it back in the bank. So I'm just saying, if you have money sitting outside the bank somewhere and you want to buy something, it's hard when you're trying to buy real estate because you got to show where it's from. It takes a while to get it back in the banking system. So I'm going to get in trouble.
I'll tell you a quick story about this. This is before cryptocurrency, right? But I used to live in Reno. And so, I had a couple of days there where I'm having a good day. We're playing a little blackjack. And I had this one day I ran like $5. I stopped off for lunch, ran $5 to over $2,000, right? Great day. But then the problem is you start walking around with these chips. And it's like its own currency, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got this extra money here. How do I get it back in the bank? And if you have too much extra money, if you don't go a little bit at a time, then they raise a little suspicion. So you don't want to do that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm babbling on about
No,
that.
if I hadn't encountered that situation today in my travels, I wouldn't have brought it up. It's one of those things where I don't run into it a whole lot, but every once in a while you talk about people having cash, and
Yep.
it's not a big deal until you go to try to buy real estate.
Then you
You
get
know,
trouble.
they wanna see where that cash is coming from. So the U.S. government and IRS is always curious about those kinds of things, and so no suggestion that there's anything illegal having been done, right? But just because you don't have the cash in a bank account that you've gotten from a legitimate source, whatever that is, it's harder to get it back in the system without explaining where it came from. So
Yeah.
I
You
don't
gotta
know.
explain it. Yeah, you do.
Right,
They have
talking a little
to-
out of my wheelhouse here, but it was just a situation I came across, and I thought, it's not a bad topic to bring up because people probably don't think about it just like I don't really think about it. Let's say you sell a boat and somebody hands you $30,000 cash. Well, hell, there's nothing much better than that if you're selling a vehicle than to get cash for it, right? And so, you could certainly imagine how things like that would come about, and
Well, a lot of times if you bring if you bring like the receipt and then they'll be like, well,
Yeah,
how'd
you can do that. You can totally, yeah, because you're likely going to report the sale of something like that. But maybe it wasn't a boat. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was something else valuable. That you got cash for, and maybe it's not something that has a license, right?
Well, and I'm thinking, if you're
That
putting
you would
like,
normally be disclosing to the U.S. government.
well, the thing is, if you do have
But
like
we have to tell them about our cars, right? You sell your car. I guess boats have licenses. You'd be disclosing that to the U.S. government, but
yeah,
there are other personal items where you don't, right?
yeah. So anyway, it is an interesting topic. And
We did
do have-
digress there. Terribly.
did.
Sorry, Amanda. That was pretty boring. She says high yield savings are doing pretty well right now, and liquid with most banks. I agree.
Yeah, that's right.
I agree.
right.
There are those have come down a little bit in the last couple of months, but there have been some good deals in savings accounts. If you deposit a fair amount of money, can't
I'll
be.
tell you what,
It's got to be a big amount of money.
I think those online banks have a little bit better rate. I've noticed that.
Do they?
Some of those online banks have a pretty darn good rate. Yeah.
I saw there was a bank in Mill Creek advertising 5%.
Oh, that's great.
In October. Yeah, it's right down there, Mill Creek Town Center. What's that bank? I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was, but they had it right there in the window. But you probably have to deposit $100,000 or $200,000 to get that rate. But that was a pretty decent return. I don't know that that's still there. Probably not, because interest rates came down a bit since then. So, but Amanda says Allie is close to 5%.
Nice.
Is that right?
Allie's close. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
So, 5%. That's not too bad, right? Oh, Steve joined. Hi, Steve. I don't know Steve, but hey. I can see my phone, so I'm actually saying hi to people.
You know what?
Yeah,
I turned off.
I like 5%. That's good.
I turned off my TikTok.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Are you done, Dan?
I'm done. I'm pretty
Yeah,
much
I'm
done.
done too.
I'm done. It's
It's
interesting.
been fun.
I'm very. I tell you what's interesting. We did today's show on a Friday, and when you do your show on like the end of the week on Friday, like we're doing, and you ask me that question, "Are you done, Dan?" And I think to myself, "Boy, am I done?"
I know, right? I hate to put us off till Friday. I don't like doing that, but
well,
probably go happy houring it out there, and I got nothing. We were left out.
I might have to go down to Dino's. You mentioned happy hour.
I'd have to go to the grocery store. That ain't gonna happen. It's Friday night. I'm staying home. All right, you guys. See you later. I'm gonna sign off on TikTok.
Kat, thank you very much. It was a great week. Thank you.
Yeah, it was fun, right, Dan? Oh gosh, I can't get myself off. It's so funny. I can never get this thing to turn off.
Okay, let's see here. I got to figure out how to turn this.
Oh my gosh. I'm so funny. I can't ever turn this off. Bye guys. See you next week.
How am I going to turn? Oh, I have to click